Everyone, it's Kirei here for Arden Creative Studio and Happy New Year to you all. This is my first layout for 2026 and I'm using the Vintage Christmas collection. I have got 6 photos and these are from Boxing Day. So I'm definitely trying to get some of those recent festive photos scrapped. So I pulled out 2 of the colours from the premium cardstock. This is the 12 by 12 textured cardstock, and this is the cherry, and I've also got the hunter's green. And I'm just creating 2 photo strips, and I will, of course, distress the edges. And then I'm going to work with that fabulous holly patterned paper that is sitting there. Now, this cardstock, there are loads and loads of colours, and it comes in 12 by 12, and then it comes in your standard A4. That is just a flat cardstock, whereas the 12 by 12 has the linen texture. And what is so lovely with the cardstock is actually the colour, for any of the colours, it's all the way through. So when you distress the edges, it's the colour. There's no white sort of core. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Here we go. This holly pattern paper from the 12 by 12 paper pad, it was really calling out to be fussy cut, and I was like, I definitely need to use it. I'm not sure how, but I definitely need to use it. So I know not everyone loves fussy cutting. I do. Find it really therapeutic, and it's just nice to just sit and just fussy cut, watch a bit of TV, and yeah. So now I did actually go crazy with the fussy cutting, and I did 3 of these large holly clusters, and then I did a couple of small ones as well, and a few odd leaves. Here we go. I'm only showing you 2, but I can tell you there is a third one. And then I actually only use one of the large clusters, but that's okay. I can use it for something else later. So my idea is to almost create my 2 photo strips and then create the sort of holly cluster going across the layer. And I decided, because I had the red in my photos and I'd back the photos in the red and the green, I felt like I needed to add maybe a bit of red here. So I've just pulled out, it's a Distress Oxide, it's in Candied Apple, and I've just sort of watered it down slightly, and I'm just colouring in the berries on the fussy cut holly clusters. And then, I was just sort of playing around then with the ephemera. So I've got the 2 lamp poles here, and I'd also brought in the baubles. I wasn't completely sure, but I thought, oh, I'll see what do. And this is really part of the process, I find, is just placing things and then just sort of letting it sit and seeing how it looks as I work through the layout. Now I've got 2 more pattern papers here. These are from the 8 by 8 paper pad, and it's that sort of green and that vintagey patterned red. So I just wanted to add a little bit more pattern behind my photos, but I was really sticking to the red and green sort of theme throughout. I didn't really want to bring in any other colours. I wanted to stick to that sort of traditional Christmas red and green. So as always, I'm distressing the edges of the pattern papers, and then I can get those stuck down, and then I can sort of play around with getting everything else placed and stuck down. So I'll get those stuck down, and then we can sort of work with it. Now I played around a bit here because I wasn't completely sure with the holly whether to go with the brighter green colour, because holly is quite sort of subtle. But I thought, you know what, I am going to go with it because I liked the pop of the sort of brighter green that I was bringing into the layout anyway. I mean, I am all for colour. I do love colour. So I felt that sort of slightly brighter green just was a really nice contrast to the holly. So yeah, I decided to stick with it. I did play around off camera with some other colours, but no, I came back to that one. Okay, so now that's down, I can get the photo strips stuck down. I'm just going to add a little bit of foam tape to the top of the photo strips, and then the bottom will be stuck flat, only because I really don't like sticking everything flat on my layout. I always tend to have, there's either foam pads or, I've curved the edges or something like that, just to give me a bit more dimension in my layout. I know it's not for everyone, but it's definitely something I do all the time. I could never have a completely flat layout, though I do look back in the early days when I very, very first started scrapbooking, My layouts are completely flat, really big photos and then very flat. But it's nice looking back and thinking that's how it evolved over time and you develop your own style. So, so it's certainly moved on considerably since then. Though I have to say, I probably don't get nearly as many layouts into my albums now because I have so much more dimension in them. Anyway, that's okay. Okay, now I am using the alphabet stickers that are part of the Vintage Christmas collection. And because they're flat stickers, and I've obviously just been talking about, I tend to not like anything completely flat. I'm sticking them here onto this is the bright white A4 cardstock. And then I'm just going to cut around it and creating. So I create my words. So I've got Boxing Day tradition, and then I can raise them on foam pads. So that gives me my dimension. So yeah, there's always a way to get around things with, different products. So here we go. I am just getting the foam pad stuck on the back, and then I can work on getting the cluster down. Now, because I've got those large holly clusters, I did look at the ephemera and go, what shall I add? And I felt like I didn't really need to add too much more. But yeah, it was just one of those things that I thought I just didn't really need to go too crazy with ephemera because I really love those holly clusters and I wanted to make them a real feature anyway. So I just used the two lamp poles here. I've got one on the left, and I will tuck, head's coming in. There's going to be another one here. You're completely sorry about that. So I've just tucked in another lamp pole over there to the right of the photos, and the holly leaves are stuck down now, and then I can get my tradition stuck down as well, and then I can sort of start to tuck in the other bits. I've got a few of these cut holly leaves. They were just on the edge of the patterns, and I'm just sort of tucking a couple of extra pieces in, and then I've brought in the rub-on transfers because there were a few green elements. There was some more holly leaves and these little sort of berry type images, and I thought, I'm going to get a few more of those in because that ties into the brighter green that I've used in the background, but also backing my photos. So I'm just sort of working through and seeing where the rub-ons can sit. The rub-ons are a great way of adding, almost like creating dimension, because you've got those flat on the background. You've got your ephemera or all my fussy cut holly leaves that are lifted up. So you've already creating another layer, which I really like. Okay, so I'm now just drawing the lines for my journaling, which I will do off camera because I've got this rub on here that I rather liked, and I felt like I needed something else to sort of balance, bring the eye around the layout. And so I thought I'll use this at the bottom, and I think that will work really well because it creates a bit of a scene. It's the red and the green still. So yeah, so I really like how it looked. But when I took it off, I felt like it feels a little bit like it's just floating, and I'm not, yeah, it wasn't, yeah, there was something I needed to do anyway. So this is the stage where at this point in time, you can see I'm trying all sorts of things. I've had another rub on there. I've put back on the left because I'm thinking, where does that go? I've got my gold paint out, thinking I'm going to add splatters. Then I go to the enamel dots, and I am using, these are the ones that coordinate with the collection. And I'm just adding a few white enamel dots here, just in the background. But this was the point where I was like, I wasn't quite sure where I was going and what was I going to do, particularly with that rub-on transfer down the bottom. But then I decided I was just going to cut a strip of the pattern papers, the red and the green, and then I was just going to add those to the bottom of the layout. And then that tied into the large, obviously, photo cluster, but it just helped to I guess, anchor that bottom rub on. So yeah, that worked out okay in the end. So that was fine. So you'll see that in just a moment. There we go. And I do add a few more of the enamel dots down the bottom here as well, just a little cluster of 3. And I always work with 3s as much as possible because from a design perspective, 3 is more pleasing to the eye, the odd number. Okay, and then finally, I am going to add some gold splatters. It's obviously a festive layout, so, you need a bit of sparkle. And then I'm pretty much done. I'll add my journaling off camera. Yeah, I'm pleased with how that came together. I love all the traditional reds and greens. Here we go. Here's the final layout. And then here are some of the close-ups. You can see the detail, the fussy cut leaves and those fabulous rub-on transfers. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching the process video, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.